Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Tunnel Podcast. It's episode 45. I have to look at my notepad there because we have postponed this episode about 3 attempts due to my casual drinking and his genetics. That's why Sunday and Tuesday were cancelled. But we're back here Thursday night, back on the roll with Tom Goff. Tom, how are we doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. Yeah, it seems like about 3 weeks since we've done one, doesn't it? Because of the postponements this week. But raring to go, mate.
Look, a lot has passed. Obviously, loads of action in the Championship. We were at obviously the game last Saturday. That seems like an absolute lifetime ago since I saw you. So, not really good catching up with your old man as well, and a good game, a great finish, which I'm sure we'll mention at some point during the next hour or so. So, okay, look, there's only one place to start. Bramall Lane Monday night. The top two went toe to toe, bigger than Ben Eubank that's been doing the rounds this week. Was the Battle of Bramall Lane? What was your takeaway from it? There's no doubt about it that these are the best two teams in the division.
I think so, mate. Yeah, definitely. We were kind of a few weeks back discussing, Burnley, and were they, on course to become that second place team, the team behind Leeds, and kind of lock that down and steer towards automatic promotion. But they've had a couple of draws since, haven't they? And fair play to Sheffield United, they've carried on winning, kept touch with Leeds. So it was all set up nicely, for the game on Monday night. What was it? 2 points, I think it was 2 points, wasn't it, in it before kickoff, so everything to play for. The winner's going to be top of the table come the end. So and it was, I think, you and me were just saying, weren't we, that how many times do these games get hyped up and then they just never they never deliver. But I thought it was an absolutely cracking game on Monday. Like you said, the best two teams in the Championship going toe to toe. I think the game kind of ebbed and flowed, didn't it? Both teams had long spells where they were on top and dominating the game and putting a lot of pressure on the opposition. It was a really, really enjoyable watch. And obviously Leeds left it late, but they got the job done. Massive victory for them. That it's. I don't want to kind of, there was a lot of talk, wasn't there, by the commentators and the pundits afterwards about Leeds kind of, is that one foot in the door for them, getting promoted to the Premier League. Look, there's still a lot of games to go, isn't there? There's still a lot of points to play for, and the teams aren't that far behind them. But I just think in terms of, the win, beating the team on their own at their own ground, and putting a bit more distance between them, it was a massive statement, I felt, from Leeds.
Look, we'll come on to that in a moment. I just want to listen. The game was great, as you say. The atmosphere was terrific. It didn't fizzle out at all. It delivered in every aspect. It was a great advert for the league itself. The only down part for me was Michael Brown on co-commentary. I didn't enjoy him one bit.
The thing for me, sorry to jump in, mate, is I just don't think the three works. The commentator and then the two pundits works. They try and do it in the Premier League, and I don't know why they're kind of persevering with it, because it just never works for me. It's just too much, and you forget sometimes that they're there. It's like the third one brought in has almost been told, like, well, you're not allowed to do as much as the number one pundit, so to speak. You just got to chirp in every now and again, and like you said, he just kept it kind of nipping in every now and again, and you were forgetting he was there. And then, like you said, when he was dipping in, he wasn't really. He wasn't contributing, was he? He wasn't contributing much. He wasn't the best, and you could tell there was obviously some bias towards Sheffield United as well. So,
you say that, but I couldn't make my mind up whether he was supporting Leeds or he was supporting Sheffield United.
Did he used to play for Leeds as well?
He played for both.
I was thinking that.
I don't think he knew when United were on top, he was on. He was a red, and then when Leeds were on top, he was a white. So. But no, all jokes aside, as I say, a great advert. I don't know if you saw the clip. It's been doing the rounds on social media since. Somebody on a kind of hill outside of Sheffield filming, and you could hear the crowd singing at the start of the game. You're maybe from 10, 15 mile away, so absolutely brilliant. However, the game itself, do you think there was comparisons to last Monday night's game where Sunderland and Leeds, with the way the game kind of started, and Leeds kind of didn't really get going, and then obviously they start motoring through the gears later on?
Yeah, definitely. There was a lot of similarities, weren't there? In that, I think the start Sheffield United made was just absolutely fantastic. You know, I think everyone was kind of expecting them to kind of come out the blocks and take the game to Leeds, like you said, with the home crowd behind them. You know, they were making, you know, some serious noise, weren't they? You know, obviously lifted the players. But even still, I was just, you know, I was really surprised at just how on top Sheffield United were, you know, at the start of the game. And, you know, I think they'll be really disappointing, Sheffield United, in that they didn't go more than the one goal ahead, because I think their performance probably deserved it, didn't it? You know, you and me were obviously messaging each other saying, you know, Sheffield United are absolutely well on top here. They were battering Leeds, you know, plenty of balls into the box, crosses. Meslier was obviously struggling, wasn't he? And I just felt, you know, I was sat there watching it just thinking, you know, they are going to be disappointed that they've only got the one goal from this spell on top. And like you said, that proved to be the case, because, you know, Leeds kind of, and like you said, like they did in the last game, you know, it took them a bit of time, but they finally kind of got a grip on the game, started to get more control on the ball, and, you know, started to pose a threat. And yeah, they were probably disappointed that the first half ended when it did, because I felt like, yeah, Leeds were really coming into it then, weren't they? Starting to apply some serious pressure. And, you know, we were seeing the Leeds that we've been used to, you know, for the last 15, 16 games or whatever it is, this crazy run that they're on. So, and then like you said, second half, then you're thinking, well, you know, can Sheffield United kind of turn it up a notch again, you know, start the second half like they did, you know, the first half. And I felt like they didn't apply as much pressure as they did in the first half. But again, I felt like they had a good spell at the start of the second half, where, you know, they were matching Leeds. You know, there wasn't much, was it, but between the two teams. But then I just think, you know, this is where Leeds have been fantastic, isn't it, for a while now? Well, you know, for a, you know, large chunk of the season so far, is that they just keep on going. They're just absolutely relentless to the very end. You know, we've talked about this, the squad, you know, and the depth that they have, the options that they have on the bench, you know, the quality, and I think that probably kind of swung it in their favour. You know, Sheffield United, I felt, were starting to tire a little bit, and I felt like Leeds' changes in comparison to Sheffield United's changes kind of, you know, really turned the game in their favour. And then, you know, we obviously saw, you know, the comeback complete. Then they left it late, but they've done that so many times, haven't they, this season already? So, yeah, it was absolutely cracking game. It was, like I said, it was, as a neutral watching it, it had, you know, absolutely everything. There was, as well, there was a bit of fight there, wasn't there, between the two teams? A bit, you know, there was a couple of, like, what's the word? You know, they were getting in each other's faces and they were winding each other up, and there was a bit of shithousing, weren't there? And players trying to get each other in trouble. But that's what you want to see. I don't think there's enough of that, is there, these days? So, yeah, it was a proper old-fashioned game of football, but there was definitely plenty of quality on show as well, wasn't there?
Absolutely, yeah. Like I think I couldn't have summed it up better myself. I think once Leeds United suss you out, I think you're in trouble. I think that may happen the other night. You know, you say, you know, concentration and tiredness kind of crept into Sheffield United's play a little bit. You know, some of the goals could have maybe been prevented earlier on in the build-up. So, yeah, I think Chris Wilder kind of bemoaned that at full time himself. And great scenes at the end, not a camera in sight in that away end, just grown men hugging each other, falling all over each other. Just proper English football, mate. Proper English football. Loved it. What did you make of Wilder at the end? You know, listening to him on Sky, it was almost like he conceded the title.
Yeah, look, you know, do you know what I was like? I'll have to give Wilder credit, because I do give him plenty of stick, and, you know, sometimes he's kind of post-match interviews and the excuses he comes up with, you know, they do infuriate me at times, and I was kind of waiting for it to see what excuse he was going to come up with, after the defeat. But I thought he was quite dignified. He kind of accepted, didn't he, that they put in a really good performance, Sheffield United, and I think they did. I was impressed with them. Like I said, they went toe to toe with Leeds for the vast majority of the game, and it was only really right at the very end where there was obviously it turned in Leeds' favour, and he admitted that that they showed their class in the end. But is it a bit of mind games from him to try and maybe put a bit of pressure on Leeds? That's probably what it is. I think, in that he's trying to like you said, just kind of lull them into a bit of a false sense of security, and that they've got a bit of a gap now between themselves and Sheffield United in second place, and obviously Burnley in third. There's no doubt that he's still telling those players in that dressing room and on the training pitch that it's all to play for still, that the title's within their grasp, because it is. We all know how bonkers this division can be. Leeds are on an absolutely fantastic run. They're not showing any signs of slipping up at the moment, but it was the same for Sheffield United early on in the season, didn't it? At one point, it looked like were they going to drop any points throughout the season? They were looking that strong at one point. So anything can happen. Like I said, there's still 15, 14 games still to go, and they're only five. How many points are they behind now? 5, 6 points, something like that. So
5 points behind Leeds.
Yeah. So Wilder won't be telling his players that. I think it's just a bit of mind games. Like I said, just to try and maybe make the but again, I don't think Leeds will fall for it. They just seem super focused this year. There's, like I've said a couple of times, last couple of pods where we've spoken about, I just think that they're just showing there's a different side to him. In previous seasons, there has been a bit of a soft underbelly, especially when it's come to kind of the business end of the season. But I just don't think there's any signs of that. They look really solid. And I'd just be absolutely astonished if they were to throw it away now, because like we were saying, they are quite clearly the best team in the division, in my opinion.
Daniel Farker as well, up in that gantry like the Dark Knight at times, wasn't he? Kind of looking, wasn't he? You spoke about Wilder and being quite dignified in defeat. I thought Farker was class at full time. He kind of said Sheffield United got the best manager they could get in Chris Wilder, and then went on to say that he was trying to keep the guys grounded whilst they're flying, which was quite interesting. They'll in camp. I don't think they'll be looking lifting this trophy just yet. He seems quite calm, quite reserved in terms of keeping them focused game to game. That could be really important.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, obviously they missed out. They missed out last season, and there's been seasons, like I said, not too far in the past where they've blown it in the playoffs, and he will not be letting them get carried away, for sure. And like you said, he is quite a chill guy, isn't he? He does seem quite relaxed about the situation and fine. So I always think he does come across really well in his interviews, even when they were kind of dropping a few points earlier on in the season. He always seems quite level-headed. It's quite funny, isn't it? Because there was some moans and groans at the start of the season by, I wouldn't say a large proportion of the Leeds fan base, but there were some. I remember we had the Leeds chap on, didn't we? And we were talking about Farker and whether they should have got someone else in because he blew it last season, and so on and so on. But I think we both said that it makes no sense. He's got so much experience at getting teams out of this division. And he obviously knows a lot of those Leeds players well from the previous seasons. He's been in charge, so it's all coming together nicely for him. Like I said, it's probably one of the few predictions it looks like I'm going to get right on this, because obviously said, didn't I, a few weeks back, I said I don't know what it is, but Leeds just look like they're really kind of clicking into gear at the right time. Real settled starting 11, beating everyone in their path. it was all looking a bit too comfortable for him. And I know Sheffield United gave him a tough game on Monday night for sure, but Sheffield United for me are, and like you said, the second best team in the division. So yeah, it's like I said, it's going to take something go seriously wrong now for him to not be playing in the Premier League next season.
Okay, on that then, great segue. Do you think they're actually equipped for the Premier League? Because, we've spoke over the last few weeks about the gap widening, the gap becoming more difficult. You look at the ownership, they're now obviously backed now by the San Francisco 49ers who've come in. You look at the squad, it looks, I would say, in better shape than, the teams that have maybe gone up last couple of seasons. They don't need to be doing, top 6, top 10, but to maybe get into that 17th, 16th, 15th spot, I wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah, I think the exciting thing for Leeds fans, and I was reading a little bit before we went on air about, the owners, like you said, the ties with the San Francisco 49ers have obviously got these sponsorship deals with Red Bull now, who are obviously investing in the club. And again, what I was reading, that the owners, they were, they're not getting carried away, but ultimately they were saying that if they were to get promoted into the Premier League, then they're excited by that, and that they're going to back the manager and put some money into the squad to give them a chance of staying in the division. So yeah, I think it's really exciting time to be a Leeds fan, because like you said, I think you're right. I think if they were to go up, with the squad that they've got now, I think they've probably got a better squad as they are now than I'd say Ipswich, Southampton, and probably even Leicester as well. In terms of the squad that they've got now, I think so. Yeah, if they were to go up and then have some decent investment and make some good signings and strengthen that squad, then yeah, I think you're right. I think they would definitely give it a better go than the teams that went up last season, and they're in the Premiership at this moment in time. And I just think as well, and I just think club size and status, I think it does play a role. I know obviously the vast, a lot of it does come down to money and how much you spend and so on. But I just feel like, Leeds are a big club, aren't they? They are a big club. They've got a really big fan base. They are, a Premier League team, aren't they? Everything, the ground, like I said, the fan base, the history. They are a Premier League team, aren't they? So, yeah, I think you're spot on. I think if they were to go up and seal the deal this season, then I definitely think they give it a much better go than some of the teams that went up last season for sure.
Okay, final word then on this fixture from Monday night. I just want to talk Jayden Bogle, because Chris Wilder kind of said pre-match that he didn't want to lose Bogle. It wasn't his decision to kind of sell him. He wanted to keep him. Then you look at, we spoke during the game. Clark on loan from Ipswich at right back was just nowhere near it for me, especially towards the end of that first half. He was kind of all on the rack. He didn't know whether it was New Year or New York at times. So, just in terms of, Bogle himself, thought he was really, really good. Thought he was really good against Sunderland second half as well. Is he one that could maybe go on again in terms of a move? I'm looking there just before while we were talking. The fee was undisclosed, but reports say between 5 and 6 million quid. That was a good bit of business for him.
Yeah, it looks a great bit of business from Leeds because, I think he was probably one of the players that did all right for himself when he was in the Premier League with Sheffield United, in terms of his performances. But, even when Leeds signed him at the start of the season for, like you said, 4 or 5 million, I don't think it didn't get anyone talking. Probably the Leeds fans themselves would have said, like, they weren't, it wasn't one of the signings that they were getting really excited about. But yeah, he's been absolutely immense for him, hasn't he, this season? He's been the best right back in the division by some distance. And then, like you said, it must be a bit gut wrenching for Wilder because right back's been a bit of an issue for him this season. They had Gilchrist on loan for the first part of the season, and now they've got Clark, and he's been a bit hit and miss since he's come in. Like you said, he had a tough night, didn't he? Well, he came off, didn't he, at half time, and they brought on Chowdhury to replace him. So and like you said, he had a stellar game on Monday. I felt, he was really good defensively. But I think the thing that is great about him is he gets forward so much as well, doesn't he? And he's a real threat. He's a real threat going forward for them. So I'm just thinking back. I'm pretty sure he was. A lot of the good work they did on Monday night was coming down his right hand side, wasn't it? And
yeah.
Yeah, he's been a great sign, and like you said, that 4 or 5 million. I don't know how old he is. He can't be that old. He doesn't, but that 4 or 5 million, whatever it was, is looking like a real bargain, isn't it? Because I think he's
23, which is
there you go, man.
Soccer AM, great age. Yeah. Remember that?
So it's looking like an absolute top bit of business by Leeds, because he's definitely improved as a player. With Leeds this season, he's, like I said, he's added, real attacking threat to his game, but defensively as well, I think he's got better. Like I said, no doubt he's going to be, in the team of the season in that right back position. He's, head and shoulders above the rest. So, and it must have been sweet for him to, because he was getting booed, wasn't he, all the way through it. They didn't even relent. Normally you get a bit fed up of booing every touch they take, don't you? But they were still booing him long into the second half as well. So yeah, that would have been a sweet win for him.
We usually kind of round up the weekend's fixtures at the end of the show, but I'm going to do it during, because your beloved West Brom go to Ellen Road early on Saturday. Sheffield United take the trip down to QPR. Look, I don't want to rub salt into your wounds here, but it's going to be a tough ask, isn't it, Saturday, to go there especially?
Oh yeah, mate, I'm absolutely dreading it. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm obviously going to watch it on the box, but I think it's going to be an uncomfortable one for sure, because it's like we've just been saying. I just think Leeds are a class above anyone else, really.
Do you see any weakness? Is there anything Tony Mowbray and Mark Venus and James Morris can be sitting around the table tonight and saying, actually, if we do this, and this, and attack this, and this, then we might have a chance, rather than just going there, sticking 10 behind the ball and hoping for a counter?
Yeah, I think this is the thing. Look, a couple of the Albion fans, I've a few conversations about it, and it's an odd one, because under Carlos Corberán, we would have gone there and done exactly that. We would have just let them have the ball. We would have just stayed organised.
Tried to frustrate earlier on in the season.
Pardon? Yeah, which happened. Yeah, that was it. Yeah. It was one of the first games of the season, wasn't it? And it was a real kind of drab affair, because I think Leeds was still kind of in that interim stage where they were gelling. A lot of new players, but we, just there was no attacking intent from us, and we were content with the point. Whereas, to be honest, I think we'll under Tony Mowbray, this is the thing. We'll have a go at him. And look, Sheffield United proved on Monday that if you get at them, and you back yourselves and you take risks and so on, then you can get at them. And look, we've spoken at length about Meslier. How much of a liability he is. I always think, if you can test him, maybe some set pieces early doors and get a few crosses in and so on, then, I think you've always got a chance, haven't you? But, I don't know. I like I said, I don't personally think they've got any weaknesses. I think you'd have to catch them on an off day, I feel, at this point in time to get something from him. But look, I think it'll be interesting Saturday, because with Mowbray in charge, we will give it a go. He will not set. He wouldn't have been working this week to go to Leeds on Saturday and stick everyone behind the ball and frustrate them and try and nick a goal and be content with a point. He'll give it a go. He'll want our players to express themselves, try and attack, get at Leeds and try and score some goals. But then I think the thing I worry about that is, that might play into Leeds' hands a bit. I do think that the best chance probably teams like ourselves are getting something against Leeds is by frustrating them, being really well organised in defence, sitting deep, not really taking any risks. There's been a few teams this season who have managed to get something from them by by doing exactly that. So, yeah, I think I've just got a bit of a worry that if we take the game to Leeds and we try and attack and we push men forward, that could play into their hands, and we could get a bit of a drubbing.
You do think that if you are going to have any kind of foothold in the game, like some Malumbi and Price, you're going to have a really big afternoon, don't you? Just on what you were saying there, previously about Wilder maybe shifting focus to Leeds. Leeds obviously play first. If they get the 3 points, which we both just maybe kind of said that they will, then that makes that trip to Loftus Road a little bit stickier, because you're going to then be 8 points behind. You're going to then be obviously be chasing even harder. So that could be an interesting one down in the capital.
Yeah, that's it. Look, and again, that's another reason why I think Leeds will be really, really up for the game. The last two results where they've beaten, teams that are competing with them for those automatic promotion spots, the early kickoffs. So, like you said, to put even more distance between themselves and the chasing pack. Like you said, if we can get a point, if someone offered me a point right now, I'd absolutely snap their hand off. Let's put it that way. But yeah, I think it will be. I think it will be a case of when Sheffield United play at 3, that gap will be even bigger. And like you said, it's a really tough game at Queen's Park Rangers, isn't it? They are still in that big group of teams chasing for a playoff spot. They'll be well up for it. Yeah, really difficult place to go. So. It's going to be a real test for Sheffield United, and like you said, most likely with that added little bit of pressure from Leeds, most likely getting 3 points earlier on in the day.
Just salivating for the weekend's fixtures now. That's got me in the mood. That okay, let's move attention to the bottom end, because Luton. I watched the game on Sunday, believe it or not. I was texting you during, wasn't I? The M1 derby. I got some brutal stick for calling it for the Hertfordshire derby, and someone on TikTok put me right. So it's the M1 derby. And look, they offered very little. They are, sleepwalking towards League One. They've appointed Bloomfield. I think that's, as I've wrote down here, no wins in 12 and no wins in 8 since he's been appointed. It's damning.
Yes, mate. Again, I think this is another one I'm going to get right, isn't it? Because I said
you called it. You called
it. I just said, given their circumstances, I just felt like it needed a bit of an older, wiser head to come in and try and turn their fortunes around. Because and again, I'll compliment you here. Quite early doors into the season, you said that. They hadn't invested. All their focus was seemingly on this new stadium. They were, they obviously felt that they had enough within the squad to, at the very least, stay in the division. Not get kind of caught up in any sort of relegation dogfight. And when they finally got rid of Rob Edwards, I just said to you, didn't I? It just had panic stations written all over it for me. Like, I just felt, the appointment of Bloomfield. Look, I don't want to, sound too harsh and critical of the guy, because, he was obviously doing a really good job at Wycombe. But I just felt, in terms of his experience and the fact that, what he was doing at Wycombe was his first success really as a manager,
which is always dangerous, isn't it?
Which is always dangerous, exactly that. And I just felt like he just wasn't the right appointment for me. I just felt like I said, I just felt that they needed an older, wiser head, someone who'd maybe been in similar situation in the past, someone who knew what it took to come in and deal with those players, in that situation, in that they obviously got relegated from the Premier League. They've continued that terrible form on into the Championship. Like you said, just nothing's falling for them. They just absolutely desperate for points. Someone who knew just what it took to kind of lift the spirits and try and get a reaction on the pitch. He has never experienced that. So he had no experience of coming into a situation like that at Luton and trying to turn things around. And I think I said, they were one of the busiest teams in January, and I was quite impressed with some of the signings that they made. And I did think that maybe it was going to give them, a chance of getting out of the mess. But like you said, just the longer it goes on, there's just it's the rot is just well and truly set in, hasn't it? And like you said, I think you just summed it up perfectly in that they're just sleepwalking towards relegation. I didn't watch the game, so you're better to comment on the game. But from the highlights and from everything I read afterwards, it just sounded like there was just absolutely nothing from them. Because like this is the difference. This is the difference for me between them and Plymouth is that there might be a lack of quality there, but with Plymouth, there's fight, isn't there? You can see that they've got some fight in the manager and the fans and the players on the pitch. They're scrapping and they're fighting and they're giving it their all to try and get themselves out of this situation. Right, there might be a bit of a lacking of quality there, but they're up for the scrap, so to speak. That just doesn't seem the case with Luton, does it? There just doesn't seem to be any fight there whatsoever. Their most senior players, it's almost like they've down tools, and maybe there's a mindset there that, well, if they go down again, they won't be sticking around Luton. Someone will come in and pick them up, and they'll just move on. It just.
Carlton Morris at the weekend had a look on his face at full time that kind of looked like. He thought he was in some sort of nightmare and he was going to wake up and they were going to be top of the tree. Do you know what I mean? It just feels like they just need a really good shape, and it's gone past that point now. They are, very much the favourites for me to take 24th spot. I know another podcast that do, the second tier of English football, they probably get one or two more views than us, tipped them to be top of the pile, but they're far from that. And I just feel like, you look at, these back-to-back relegations, I would be really scared if I was the Luton owner that they're going to go down to League One and still compete, because you may still have the likes of Wrexham in there, Chesterfield as well, Stockport. These guys are all trying to get up as well. So it's quite fierce League One now. Barnsley, Rotherham, these clubs as well. So it's not a given if you go down, you come back up. Add to that, you are going to have to do something with this squad because you're going to have guys on big money, guys still on probably money from the Premier League. You just spent, as you say, in January. The lad from Middlesbrough costing £5 million. I bet he's on a decent coin as well. So it's about balancing that. It's going to be really, if Luton think they're in a tricky situation now, I think it could be worse next season as well.
100%, mate. They'll lose their best players if they were to go down. I know they're guys that haven't performed this season, but they have proven in the past that they are, very capable at this level. The likes of Doherty, the likes of Morris, the likes of Adebayo, really underperformed this season. I think he's, statistically been the worst striker in the division this season. But they've done enough in the past for teams to come in and take a chance on them. So this is again what I think is part of it, that I think there's a bit of arrogance in there from some of the senior players, in that. They're probably quietly confident that if Luton were to go down again, consecutive. You there, mate? You're just jumping a little bit. Am I still here?
I'm here. Yeah.
If they were to go down, consecutive seasons, that they'll get a move anyway, because that's what I said. And reading some of the comments from Luton fans and seeing stuff on social media, I think that's the thing that's just really upsetting them the most, is that it's not that they're losing matches. It's just they're just showing no fight whatsoever. Like I said, I think
from the weekend's game, the only one that I would say maybe a kind of pass marks is Doherty, who you've obviously mentioned, numerous times on here. He was the only one kind of trying to make things happen, wanting the ball. But any time that Watford upped the ante, upped the pace of the play, Luton just couldn't live with them, and it was just inevitable what the outcome was going to be. Let's look at, their march is quite heavy. They're at home to Pompey, away to Burnley, away to Cardiff, home to Borough, away to Hull. Where are they going to pick up points here? I just don't see it.
Yeah, to be honest, mate, I just think it's irrelevant in terms of who they've got and on paper whether they're beatable or not. I just think that's completely irrelevant at this moment in time. I don't think it really matters who they come up against. We've seen enough of football over the years for you to you can almost see it, can't you, already, that they're destined for the drop. It's like I said, I know I keep kind of using them as a comparison, but in terms of Plymouth, I just in terms of how their attitude and how they're fighting and they're scrapping, and there's been positive response since the new manager came through the door. They're just polar opposites at this moment in time. I think you look at the players Luton have available to them, and like you said, you look at the games on paper. Yes, they could do it. They can still stay up. They could put a bit of a run together, but they're just getting worse and worse as each game passes. Absolutely no sign of any improvement from them whatsoever. I don't know. Look, football's a funny old game, isn't it? Maybe they just need one performance, one result, to just kind of the spark, that lights the fuse. Maybe, I don't know, but just at this moment, I just can't see it, mate.
Well, listen, it's Pompey at home at the weekend. Pompey seem to be doing a bit better away from home. Certainly that performance at Bramall Lane looked more inspired than the one that we watched at the Hawthorns a week or so before it. So we'll move on. We'll stick with the bottom six, because I think it's interesting. Stoke, I don't know if you saw anything last night on social media. John Walters was pitchside at one of the Premier League games and was getting absolute pelters from Stoke fans online for even contemplating doing that when they've got such a massive worry, because they are in threat. Let's not beat around the bush. Hull are obviously just outside the relegation zone. They're only 2 points behind. Argyle are 5 points behind, but they can't seem to get any consistency. Stoke, you thought maybe when they brought in the striker on loan from Ipswich, that might have been the answer to their prayers, but it hasn't been.
Yeah, can you hear me, mate? You're just lagging a little bit for me. Am I all right on your screen?
Yeah, you're fine. Yeah.
All right, mate. Yeah, just tell me if I start. I heard what you said. You're just jumping around a little bit. That was all. I don't know whether it's probably me and my laptop, mate. I'm the one always causing problems, aren't I? Yes, mate. Yeah, look, Stoke. Look, I have been. When you told me that, Robbins has got less points than Pelak had in his first 6 games, was it? 6 games, 9 games, something like that, was it? I was just, that was. I wouldn't say it was surprising, but it's not surprising. Obviously, considering how they've been doing in recent weeks. But let's put it this way: I'm surprised that Robbins just hasn't had more of an impact. You remember when obviously he was appointed, and I was on here saying, I felt it was a really, really top draw appointment for Stoke, and that he was going to pull them clear of the relegation fight. And that obviously hasn't been the case. He's really struggled to get a reaction from them, and I have been a bit surprised. Look, I know you've mentioned Walters there, and I think this is the thing with Stoke, isn't it? I think there's more deep-rooted issues, isn't there, at Stoke? It's not as straightforward, is it, as things on the pitch. I think there's a lot of issues behind the scenes. John Walters just, since he's come in, he I'm trying to think how to word it. Let's just say,
for me, he never seems to be able to read a room. Every decision he makes is just, ill-advised, or the fans don't seem to like it. I mean, the appointment we both sat here was great, but some of the recruitment's not been brilliant. I know they've done well maybe in the loan market, but some of the more permanent signings haven't been great, and it's been that case for quite a while.
Yeah, I think he's just, I don't know, it's weird. Like you said, I think he's got a bit of an arrogance about him, and I think, he kind of this again. A lot of this is from what I've read and Stoke fans on social media and seeing them kind of having discussions between themselves, etc. But he's like, there was a bit of arrogance about him. He kind of came in, he got rid of Schumacher there, and then even though he was doing okay, he wanted to bring his own guy in, all the vast majority of the decisions he's made since he walked through the door have just been calamitous, basically. We were both in agreement that Robbins was a good appointment, and I still think he will be. I still think he will keep them up. I don't think it's not going to be as comfortable as I felt it was going to be when Robbins first came in. I think it's going to be a scrap for him, and it's probably going to go down to the wire, but I think he will keep them in the division. But then, like you said, they just need it. They need a kind of reset button, don't they? And it needs to be a big revamp of the squad. And this is the point. I'm coming full circle now. I don't think the Stoke fans for 1 minute trust John Walters to be the man to oversee, a successful, purge of that existing squad, and then bringing in the guys that Robins wants to turn them into a force again in the Championship. I don't think they've got much confidence in the guy whatsoever. So, yeah, we'll see. Like I said, I think Robins will keep them up, but I think there's much bigger problems at Stoke. I feel behind the scenes that need to get sorted for any sort of big improvement on the pitch.
I love the way you went full circle. They're stunning, beautiful to watch. They've got Watford at home on Saturday. That would be a statement win for me, because I think Watford are kind of, that win at the weekend's kind of giving them a bit of a lift. That Cleverly hadn't won at home for five attempts. Obviously all that stuff with the Spanish manager being linked, etc. And they just looked at a group together. Actually, they pushed him forward at the end of the game, and made him get him his round of applause and stuff. If the Potters can beat the Hornets on Saturday, that could be quite a statement.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like you said, I do feel like Watford have turned a bit of a corner. They were going through a real tricky patch, weren't they? Like you said, when those rumours started circulating that, the Watford board were going to do the classic and get rid of Cleverly and bring someone else in. But, they've stuck by him, and yeah, he's got a reaction, hasn't he, in the last few matches. And they've kind of got themselves back into that mix again, haven't they? And they're in the playoff hunt once more. They're only 3 points from sixth place. So yeah, like you said, it'll be a big win for Stoke if they can get the 3 points. But I just can't see it at the minute. And I think this again, going back to Stoke, is just, we said, didn't we, that they, when Robins come in, they needed they needed to get more fans back in the stadium, and the fans needed to get behind them as well. That would be a massive bonus, massive positive for them if, I was about to call it the Britannia Stadium then, mate. That's going
call it the Brett. That's what we know as. Call it the Brett.
That's old school, isn't it? The Britannia Stadium, getting the fans back into the stadium behind the team, but maybe there was a little bit of an improvement in attendances, but I think it's quickly dropped back, hasn't it? That stadium's like half empty, it seems, doesn't it? Come match day. So
for me, it's alarming watching the slide there, because under Tony Pulis, that place was rocking. It was a fortress.
Yeah, 100%, mate. And this is the thing. It's they've slipped a long way since then, haven't they? It's definitely not the fortress it once was, and I think it would do them the world of good, wouldn't it, if they could get a load more fans into the stadium behind the team. I think it's what's the word I'm looking for? In terms of fan power and what it can do to kind of rejuvenate and lift players, etc.
In that city, it's that football club for me. I lived in Staffordshire for quite some time. It's the bedrock of the city.
Yeah, that's it exactly, mate. So, but yeah, like I said, I just think the poor attendance isn't helping issues. Opposition teams are probably looking at going away to Stoke and kind of fancying their chances and, thinking, oh, that's an opportunity to get 3 points on the road at this moment in time. So, yeah, again, I'd be surprised if Stoke can get anything from that the weekend. But like you said, again, kind of saying what I was saying about Luton, if they could get a win against decent opposition, maybe that could be the spark they need to, put a bit of a run together, see a bit of improvement and pull themselves away from the relegation bottom three.
But lastly, on the relegation, talking of spark, one place that is no spark, it is Pride Park. Beating Millwall at the weekend. Do you know what? Actually, I'm maybe doing disservice there, because I watched the game back and they absolutely battered Millwall. They had chance upon chance. They just couldn't take them. And then Millwall obviously missed the penalty. And then it comes back, as you say, full circle. And and the boy that missed it, he slots away the winner. Alec Neil was delighted. You could see he knew that he'd robbed 3 points on that afternoon, but Derby just looked in real trouble.
Yeah, like you said, again, I only watched the highlights of the game, but from the highlights, Derby looked like they had plenty of chances, Eustace obviously rued those missed opportunities come the end. And like I said, from everything I read, it felt like Millwall really got away with one there, proper smash and grab kind of game for them. But look, again, Eustace, he'll be obviously really disappointed that they haven't taken something from the game, and like you said, the manner in which they've lost it, right at the very end, deep into injury time. But there was obviously an improvement there from his first game in charge, where they just got absolutely battered by QPR away from home. So he'll be trying to build on those positives, won't he? Going into the next game. But yeah, like you said, it's just the teams above them seem to be just picking up a few points here and there, don't they? And every time I look, that kind of gap is starting to get a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. Improvement in performance isn't enough at this stage of the season, is it? You Derby, if you ask any Derby fan, well, all right, they were the better team, put in the better performance, created the better chances, but took nothing from the game. They would have much rather been in Millwall's position, got absolutely battered, but got 3 points come the end of the day, because that's all that matters, isn't it, at this stage of the season? So, yeah, it'll be a tough pill to swallow for him, but he'll be trying to focus on the positives and hope that they can take that. They need points fast. They've got to start putting some points on the board if they want to stay in the division. Simple as that.
Borough away this weekend, and that massive one at Pride Park next week away. At home to Blackburn. That'll be one that we'll all be tuning into with the popcorn by our sides. Okay, then let's talk about the playoffs before we kind of round up. We're heading in towards the home straight. Look, loads of results at the weekend probably went your way. I've got to say, I know we were at the game. We'll come on to that in a moment. But Friday night, Sheffield Wednesday, strangely, from a 4-0 defeat, actually played quite well. Burnley just really fortuitous, took their chances, ended up winning 4. Now, if you look at that, on the Sky app, you think Sheffield Wednesday been battered. But actually, when you watch the highlights back, they weren't that bad. So Friday night goes your way. We're then at the ground, we're watching the game. The game's going ebbing and flowing. There was no real danger. I don't think that West Brom were going to lose that afternoon. But then the result comes in at the end that the Blackburn have lost on the road down at Swansea. Probably a result we didn't see coming before the kickoff.
Yeah, it just keeps this this kind of craziness, whatever you want to call it, of this playoff fight, doesn't it? It's like you said, every game week there's one or two or even 3 teams that on paper you'd think, well, that's a banker, that is, they've surely got to get 3 points from that and add it to the tally, and it doesn't happen. Like you said, we were both saying that we fancied Blackburn, and then funnily enough, it was my old man, wasn't it, who was saying Swansea is such a weird team, you wouldn't put it past them getting the win today comfortably after everything that's gone on with them, and that's obviously what happened. It's just crazy. Like none of these teams just seemingly want to lock down one of those playoff spots. I think it's probably only Coventry and maybe Bristol as well. But Coventry are probably that team at the moment, aren't they? Who are consistently putting points on the board on a real good run at the moment, and look to be that team who are kind of full of confidence heading into the last quarter of the season.
Does it not seem mad to you, though, just on that Coventry have put all these wins together and they're still not in the top 6? They're still not in there, with the other teams being kind of dropping points. You've seen that ebb and flow. It's been mind blowing for me. When we kind of pulled up the Hawthorns on Saturday kind of afternoon, Bristol City were in the top 6. They'd had that win the night before, a decent win actually against Middlesbrough, you have to say. Then if you've mentioned there, Coventry go on and win, but still you know, it's Blackburn and yourselves kind of holding on to 5th and 6th.
Yeah, like you said, we're mate. Like you said, I just can't explain it. Like the craziest thing as well is you look at Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough lost 5 games on the bounce, and then obviously got a win in midweek, their game in hand, and they're still only 4 points off 6th place. They lost 5 games in a row. You know, how on earth are they still within touching distance? It just doesn't make sense, does it? All these teams, they've all just got pretty much identical kind of records, haven't they? For a fair bit of time now, they just, you know, there's just no consistency. You know, we're all kind of winning one, losing one, drawing one, winning a couple maybe, but then, you know, losing a couple, and there's just no consistency whatsoever. And again, like I need to look back at last season and see what it was like. But from what I remember last season was that, you know, at this stage of the season, there was obviously the teams vying for automatic, but then there was, you know, the teams chasing for those playoff spots had almost been whittled down by this point in the season as well, in that there was a big enough gap had emerged between, you know, kind of, I don't know, 8th place, 9th place maybe, and then the rest of the bunch. You know, you knew that it was going to be those teams then who were scrapping for those remaining playoff spots. But yeah, it shows no sign of that happening at all, does it? Like you said, you can still probably go down to Queen's Park Rangers in 14th, who are still, you know, their fans will still be saying we've got a chance of getting in the playoffs, and rightly so. You know, it's absolutely crazy, mate. And look, I honestly couldn't tell you now. You know, when was it where we were kind of talking up Middlesbrough and West Brom, and we were both really kind of confident and sure, weren't we? That
probably just around December time, wasn't it?
Yeah,
yeah.
We kind of did we did a bit of a review of our predictions, didn't we? And we were both saying then that I remember it was definitely before Corberan left, because I remember Corberan was still in charge, and we were saying, you know, Blackburn and West Brom and Middlesbrough, you know, were the 2 teams that, but yeah, it's you know, changed considerably since then, hasn't it? There's so many teams in the mix, and like I said to you right now, I couldn't pick 2 teams. I honestly couldn't. I think it could be absolutely any one of those teams. You know, I think they're all kind of similar standards. Like I said, they're all in very similar form. You know, it's just going to be crazy, mate, to see how this unfolds. It really is. And it's not, mate, I tell you what, it's not nice being a, you know, like I said, last season, it was like I said, it must probably this stage of season, maybe a few more games in, I don't know, but you know, it got to a point where the West Brom fans, we were quietly confident that, you know, we had a really good chance of getting in the playoffs. Like I said, I think there was only a couple of other teams in it. Hull and Norwich, I think, were the only other 2 teams who had a chance of getting into the playoffs. So, you know, you were just, you know, come every game week, you were just focusing on those teams to see how they were doing and looking at who those guys had coming up, etc. There's no point doing it now, because it's just so many teams still in the mix, and, you know, everyone's still got to play each other. It's just absolute chaos, mate, honestly.
Just to throw a bit of a curveball, because, you know, I don't think many people are talking Norwich up for top 6, but Josh Sargent has just come back and he's resurgent. He's, you know, I hadn't seen a lot of this guy until obviously he's come back from injury, but it just seems like everything he touches turns to goal.
Mate, he's probably another one of these players who's just ridiculous at championship level, but he probably won't cut it and you know, be prolific in the Premier League. But mate, at this level, honestly, he is, and you know, he's a force to be reckoned with. You know, absolutely top draw, and yeah, he, you know, him being out for as long as he was for Norwich was just absolutely massive loss for him. And then obviously to add injury to insult, you know, Sainz got suspended for 6 games, 7 games, or whatever it was. But again, like you said, they've just really gone under the radar, because they've obviously been able to kind of keep within touching distance still of all these teams. And then now they've got Sargent back, who, you know, there's been no, you know, in terms of him coming back, you know, sometimes it takes players a little bit, doesn't it, after an injury to kind of get going again. and start kind of hitting those performance levels that they're capable of. I think it was the first game back he scored, and like you said, since he's come back, he's got more goals and games. I'm sure of it. I saw something the other day, and then to add to that, Sainz has come back now as well. Who he had a ridiculous first half to the season. So yeah, they are definitely a dark horse. And remember, I said to you when we did our predictions, didn't we? A bit back, I said Norwich with Sargent coming back and Sainz coming back. Do not write them off, because those two alone, have got what it takes to spearhead them into the playoffs. Especially at home. They are a real force at home. At Carrow Road. So yeah, but Josh Sargent, mate, he's fantastic player at this level. You can score all sorts of goals. Tap-ins, scrappy ones, but he's good in the air as well, and he can score from outside the box. He's got the full Arsenal basically, and I think if again Norwich will be hoping that they can sneak into the playoffs and get promoted, because I do think they will do well to keep hold of him for another season. I think he's done enough now. The few seasons he's had in the Championship and the amount of goals he's scored, and he'll have some suitors come the summer if Norwich aren't back in the Prem.
Obviously, you've got to travel to Norwich in March. That'll be an interesting one. We'll keep our eyes on that. Okay, then we'll wrap it up. Just finally, FA Cup this weekend. Preston have got Burnley. Preston, I think, have been in the quarterfinals. I don't know if they've ever been in the quarterfinals or they've been in the quarterfinals for a long, long time. There's some stat kicking about it. Do you think they can do it at home? We saw the game the other week. Is there going to be bad blood from that as well? It's got all the makings, this one.
Yeah, definitely. Look, those two hate each other, don't they? It is a bit of a feisty one, isn't it? Proper derby that is. Like you said, there was obviously a bit of tension, a bit of controversy, wasn't there, at the end of the game?
So I've got a bit quiet.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you, is anything come of that? I've not heard anything. No. Yeah, well, it's like we said, wasn't it? From everything I read afterwards, was that it was his word against the other. There didn't seem to be any kind of anyone in earshot, and it's ultimately going to be very difficult to prove one or the other, isn't it? So, but yeah, like you said, that will definitely add to it. Like you said, quarterfinal. If they win this, is quarterfinals, isn't it? The next round. Yeah. So like you said, quarterfinal place up for grabs. And Preston, mate, they're a real funny team. They've shown, haven't they, a few times this season that, especially at home, they can, frustrate the division's best. They've taken points, haven't they?
Yeah.
They got
better against the best, to be fair.
Yeah. I remember they got a point against Leeds earlier on in the season at home. Like you said, they obviously frustrated Burnley a few weeks back, got a point against them. So
they won at Carrow Road. You've just mentioned how good Norwich are down there. So
yeah. So no, that one, like you said, everyone will be kind of expecting Burnley to get the win there and get through to the quarterfinals, but I don't think it's as straightforward as that. Like you said, there's a lot more factors involved in that game, isn't there? Should be a spicy one, that.
Epic. Okay, we will draw a line under it there. Certainly a good shift. Well done. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I know a few you've been tuning in throughout, so leave us a like, leave us a comment, all that jazz. We'll be back Sunday night. We will be back Sunday night. I'm going to be my best behaviour this weekend. Nice calm Sunday with the family. So we will see you here on Sunday night. Tom, thanks for joining me as always. Enjoy your football over the weekend, guys. Cheers.